Thank you so much for joining us here today. So what does your career as a speechwriter look like?
So it's sort of how I got started and how I became a speechwriter. Well, I was growing up in elementary school, high school, college. I was always fascinated with government, history, politics, and public affairs, what was going on in the news. Growing up, I thought maybe I want to be a journalist, cover the news. But I really wanted to be in Washington, D.C., where all the action is. So I came to American University in Washington, D.C. And one of the great things about being in a city like Washington is that there's tons of opportunities, incredible opportunities to do internships. So not to just study what you're interested in, but to actually go out there and try it before you build a whole career on it, to find out what you like. And so one year I was an intern at my senator's office on Capitol Hill. Another time I studied abroad in England, in London, and I got an internship at the British Parliament, which is pretty fascinating, exciting. My senior year in college, I got an internship at the White House, and I was assigned to the speechwriters for the president. So as a college senior, I was able to watch presidential speechwriters do their job and thought, wow, that'd be an incredible thing to do someday. It brings together all my interests in politics, history, government, public affairs, and I enjoy writing. So what better place to be? So I think that's probably where I first got the sense of that maybe this is something I'd like to do with my life. But a lot of people don't realize that speechwriting is a career, that you can actually make a career doing it. Again, not just in government, but in politics and all sorts of different places. And a few years later, I got my first speechwriting job for our Secretary of Defense. So I worked at the Pentagon for a few years, and I worked up on Capitol Hill for a few years after that, writing for a member of Congress, writing for one of our Senate committees. And then I went into business for myself, and eventually around 2008, I got connected with the Obama campaign and his speechwriters. And when he won, they asked me if I wanted to join the team. So then I became a speechwriter for the president.
What do you do on a day-to-day basis as a speechwriter?
So as a speechwriter, particularly at the White House for the president, it's your job to, prepare the scripts, the speeches that the president's going to go out and deliver. And so on any given day, we would maybe get to the White House around, 7:30, 8 in the morning. And the great thing about being a speechwriter, at least from my perspective, was I didn't have to go to tons of meetings all day. I got to really focus on researching and writing the president's speeches. And so, I was judged, and I was, my performance was based on the quality of the speeches that I had to turn in. And so it's like, you've all written essays for school. I would be basically writing essays every day, all day. And we would be writing for trips coming up, or visits of foreign leaders coming up, or policy announcements. Sometimes we could write these speeches in, maybe take a few hours. Sometimes it would take a few weeks. Some of the really big ones, we might work on them for more than a month or so. And so at any given day, we would be maybe putting the finishing touches on the speech for that day. We'd be doing some edits to the speech for tomorrow. We'd be writing the speech for later in the week. And maybe we'd be just starting to research the speech for a week or two down the line. So at any given moment, we'd be working on multiple speeches, but different stages. And, all the same steps that you do in a paper for school, we do with a speech, right? We do the research, we do outlining, we have our citations, we want to make sure our facts are correct. We write a draft, we share the draft with our speechwriting colleagues. Then we share the draft with people across the White House, maybe across the government. A day or two before the speech, we would send it up to the president for the president to review. And up there at night, y'all have homework, right? You do homework all the time. Well, presidents get homework too, and he gets a big, thick binder of all his speeches and memos and decisions that he needs to make for the next day. And so up there in his residence at night, he'd edit the speeches and he'd send them back to us the next day, and we'd make his edits. So it would depend. And then sometimes we did a lot of foreign travels, a lot of trips around the country with the president, trips around the world with the president. We'd fly on Air Force One, fly on his helicopter with him, making those edits. And it was really exciting. It was an incredible way to see the world. So again, if you're interested in government and politics and history and other countries, it's a great career to have.
What are some of your most challenging or favorite moments in writing a speech?
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely the most challenging moments were when we had to write a speech for the president after something bad happening, a natural disaster, an accident, a terrorist attack, a shooting of some kind, when the president had to go out and be what they call, the consoler in chief. So the president has many jobs, but one of them is to help the country get through hard times. And so having to work on those speeches was always very difficult because something terrible had happened and people had been hurt or somehow, and people were grieving. And it was always very hard to kind of find the right words to do that, because the president was there to, hopefully help guide the country through those difficult moments. So those were always the most challenging ones, definitely. And then the ones that were the most, exciting to work on were, for me, or for most fulfilling, is when, the opposite, when we got to talk about something good or someone who had done something important. So the Medal of Honor ceremonies were always very, very nice when we get to honor somebody or give an award to someone for being a great athlete or a great musician or a great performer.